We have been in a 32-day prayer challenge centered around the theme of draw the circle, which is simply finding a promise of God, relating it to our need, and sort of figuratively or literally drawing a circle around that promise and stepping into it with God, expecting God to do something. So we've talked about what it means to draw a circle, and then we talked about what it means to draw a circle in faith and dreaming big in John chapter 15, where Jesus says, ask what you will, and it will be done for you. It's to my Father's glory that you bear much fruit. So we talked about dreaming big and drawing some big circles around those dreams based on the promise of God. And then last week we talked about praying hard. Praying hard by being persistent in our prayers. We used the images of the priest of God standing in the Jordan as 2 million people pass by. Standing in faith. Standing, bearing the emotional and the spiritual and the physical difficulty of what that was, so that the people of God could pass through into the promises of God. When we talked about Elijah, who had years before said, it will not rain again except by my word. And then they went through a big drought. And finally, at the end of that, you know the story of Elijah defeating the prophets of Baal. And then right after that, Elijah tells King Ahab, take a break, get ready, because there is the sound of heavy rain. That was before he even started praying. He said, there's the sound of heavy rain. So then he went, his servant went away to pray. Elijah started praying, and he prayed, we don't know how long, but after a while he sent his servant to look out over the sea. He said, do you see anything? And the servant said, nothing. There's nothing there. Elijah kept praying, and then on the 7th time, 7 being the number of completion and fullness, signifying that Elijah had stuck with it. He had prayed through to the end. And on the 7th time, the servant said, there is a cloud the size of a man's hand. And Elijah knew what was coming. And he goes back and tells Ahab, you better get up and get out of here, because there's heavy rain coming. You see, he knew heavy rain was coming before he even started praying. And then he knew heavy rain was coming when it was just a little cloud. It wasn't even black yet. But he knew God had heard his prayer, and God was going to answer with heavy rain. And then we looked at the story of the persistent widow, and she went to the unjust judge, and she just kept after him. And finally the judge says, look, I've got no respect for God. I got no respect for people, but I got to get this woman off my back. And so he gave her what she wanted. And Jesus said, now, if an unjust judge will do that, what about your heavenly Father, who delights in giving good things to his children? Will he not give us what we ask for. But be persistent in prayer. We should never give up.